she's so fine. Hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? Today is Saturday, July the 30th, 2022. I was asked in my comments to do an update regarding the lawsuit that has been filed in the Kenneka Jenkins case by her mother, Miss Tereasa Martin, against the Crowne Plaza and a slew of other people. So I'm going to go ahead and do that today. Now, I just have it small here on the screen so that I can go through the defendants because there are so many. The case was filed on December the 11th of 2018. It is a very real case, no matter what anyone says. Okay, it's right here in LexisNexis via the Cook County Clerk of the Circuit Court website, electronic docket search. It's case number 2018-L-013273. It's filed in the Law Division, and it's a case, Tereasa Martin as Special Administratrix for the estate of Kenneka Jenkins deceased versus CPO Hospitality, LLC, doing business as, and then it's cut off there, Beam Legal Team, LLC, Capital Security Investigations, Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare, F&F Realty, Ltd., and NBC Rosemont, doing business as Murray Brothers Caddyshack. And what's different about this is, and I think Mr. Jackie Dragon mentioned it in his video, that the Cook County Clerk of the Courts has updated their website, and you can see over here that they have pro se beside everyone except for CPO Hospitality. So pro se means representing themselves. That's not true. But what they have done is they have listed the attorneys in the defendants section for whatever reason. I'm not sure. This is certainly a glitch in the system. But it's Milika Filipovic, who is with Jeffrey Feiger's law office. James J. Harrington the fourth, also with Jeffrey Feiger's office. Leipy Lyons Murphy Narstad, who is an attorney. And Tribler, Orpit, and Meyer, who's also an attorney's office. So, for whatever reason, they have them listed in this way. Again, I think it's a glitch in the system. Now, I'm going to update the case from 2022, which is January to present, because there's been so much that has happened in this case that I've covered in other videos. But another thing that's different in the case activity section, it used to list it chronologically. It no longer does that. So I'll have to go and find each date in chronological order, which I have already done previous to this video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to try not to waste a bunch of time dilly-dallying with all this stuff. But I'm going to try to make it as simple and as plain as possible. The first filing this year was on January the 21st of 2022. And it was a response or a reply, which was filed. There was 3 of those filed. And then there was also a notice of filing filed. So a response or reply is simply, and the other part about this, in this update, it used to list the participant, who was asking the court to do this, or who filed what. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm not sure what to make of that, but it doesn't say who did any of the filings on this, who filed the responses or replies to the response, none of that. But it's a response or a reply. It's basically somebody It's simple as it can be. Responding or replying to something that's been asked of them or what have you. And then the notice of filing is simply a document that goes along with that just to let the court know, hey, I'm filing these replies to party X's request for such information. So that's what happened on January the 21st. The next thing that happened in this case was on March the 14th. On March the 14th, there was a certificate filed, there was a certificate of mailing filed, and a proof of service filed. And again, it doesn't say which participant did any of this. A certificate is exactly what it says. It is a certificate filed with the court. The certificate of mailing filed is simply normally a one-page document that says, hey, I, party X, mailed the certificate to all parties. And the proof of service is basically the same thing, except it's just saying, hey, I swear and affirm and attest that I mailed all of these documents to all of these parties. All right. The next thing that happened in this case was on March the 30th. On March the 30th of this year, there was a motion filed. There was a notice of motion filed. A motion is simply asking the court for something. Asking the court to do something. Asking the court for time. Asking the court a lot of different things. And the notice of motion is simply a document saying, hey, party A is filing this motion asking for this to happen in the court. Now, the next thing that happened in this case was on April the 11th of 2022. And again, I want to say that there were no parties assigned to that last filing of the certificates, or the motions rather, sorry. Okay, April the 11th, 2022, there was a certificate filed and a proof of service filed. So they provided the court with their certificate, and then they said, hey court, hey judge, I am mailing this certificate to all parties involved via U.S. mail, is usually what it says. Okay, then on April the 19th of this year, there was a case continued for case management conference, which was allowed by Judge James O'Hara, and that was requested by Tereasa Martin as special administratrix for the estate of Kenneka Jenkins deceased, by and through her attorneys. And I want to explain what case management is. Case management is a meeting between the judge, it's a conference, between the judge and the attorneys for both parties, at which time the judge will check in on the progress of the case, set deadlines, and plan for how the case will move toward trial. So, very simple. So, they filed that, and the judge allowed it. All right. The next thing that was done in this case was on May the 13th of 2022. And that was a busy day in this case. A very busy day. There was a file amendment, additional, amended pleadings, which was allowed, which was filed by Ms. Tereasa Martin. There was a file appearance or jury demand filed by Capital Security Investigations. Both of those were allowed by Judge James O'Hara. And what the file amendment, additional, amended pleadings means is that Tereasa Martin, by and through her legal counsel, was allowed to file an amendment or an additional amended pleading. The judge approved that. Capital Security Investigations filed an appearance or jury demand. And what that means is, in a demand to the court, you are simply asking the court for something. You're not exactly demanding it, but you are asking the court for something. For example, a jury trial. And the judge allowed that. It also says answer or plead. So it could be that they were asking the court to make someone answer a document that they had previously filed. And also, it can allow the parties to add claims, add additional parties to the lawsuit, or defenses based on facts that occurred before the original pleading was filed. Supplemental pleadings allowed a party to add claims or defenses based on facts that occurred after the original pleading was filed. So that's very important to note that too. And it's also important to note that Capital Security Investigation is the one that did that. So you take that into context, and they could be changing their defense based on facts that occurred before the original pleading was filed. So now that's when it becomes important. So it's important to know what these filings and documents are talking about, because you can kind of see which way the case is going, okay? Also, on May the 13th, Tereasa Martin and Capital Security Investigation filed execute or perform. And what that means, it's a simple and fancy way of saying, do it. Do whatever it is we've asked you to do. And they were all three allowed. The judge allowed all three. So it could be that, this is just an example, it could be that Ms. Tereasa Martin was asking Capital Security Investigations for something they didn't do within a certain time frame, and now she needs to come back, bind through her attorney and say, hey, they didn't do it. Make them do it. Okay? Also, on that same day, May the 13th, Ms. Tereasa Martin, bind through her legal counsel, filed a strike withdrawal complaint, amended complaint, portion thereof, and it was allowed by Judge James O'Hara. Also, she filed along with that an amended complaint or petition, which the judge allowed. And she also filed, same date, strike from case management call, allowed. And along with that, she filed court's motion, this case is taken under advisement. So, this is quite a mouthful. A motion to strike is a request to the judge that part of a party's pleading or a piece of evidence be removed from the record. Now, it can be that it was redundant, it was immaterial to what was going on, impertinent, or scandalous. The motion can be made by a party within an allotted time frame and can be raised by the court. A party may wish to make a motion to strike to remove evidence, usually part of a witness's testimony, from the court record, with the jury instructed to disregard the evidence. And it's commonly called an objection. Okay? So, putting it back into context, Ms. Tereasa Martin, bind through her legal representative, filed a strike, withdrawal, or amended complaint, portion thereof. And the judge allowed that. So they wanted to remove, strike, take away, or amend something that they had already filed in the complaint. Then they filed the amended complaint or petition to the court. Then they struck this thing from this case from case management call. So in other words, we don't need you guys to babysit us on this case and try to see, a status update as to where the case is going. This case is moving. Everybody knows it's moving. So let's take it off of the case management side. And what's important to note here is this last thing. Court's motion, this case is taken under advisement. Now, what that means is that the judge, Judge James O'Hara, is taking a moment to review all of the things that he has seen in the case so far. That's his right. That's his option. So he is taking that time to review whatever it is that he deems necessary for him to proceed in the case. So there's that. The next thing in this case happened on May the 17th of this year. There was a motion filed and there was a notice of filing filed. It doesn't say who filed it. That part is blank. But someone was asking the court to do something, and then they filed a notice saying that they filed the motion. A lot of these documents go hand in hand. It's really just a courtesy to the courts. Then the next thing that happened in this case was on June the 3rd of 2022. And that was an amended complaint was filed. It doesn't say who filed it, but someone filed an amended complaint. And we can kind of see where it was working towards that. Like somebody was asking that stuff be stricken from the record. Miss Tereasa Martin was. And now the judge is thinking about everything that's going on in this case. He's taken a moment to just consider everything that he's heard thus far. Now, the next thing that happened in this case was on June the 10th of 2022. And that was an answer and copy filed. Now, it doesn't say who filed that, but somebody filed an answer. I'm not sure what it was to. I don't know if it was interrogatories, which are questions that are sent out. I don't know. It doesn't say. But they have an answer and copy filed. All right. The next thing that happened in this case was on June the 13th. Let me see if I can find. Here it is. June the 13th, there was another answer and copy filed. It doesn't say who did it. And then the next thing that happened in this case was on June the 17th. An amended additional party complaint filed. And a supplemental answer filed. And a notice of filing filed. Doesn't say who filed it, but somebody amended an additional party complaint. So someone either was requesting that another person be added to this lawsuit, and then they edited their initial or original amended party complaint, and then someone supplemented the answers they had previously filed. So, we don't know who did that. I don't like the way they did this update with the Cook County Clerk's Office, obviously. It's a real problem. The next thing that happened in this case was on June the 28th. Strike from case management call allowed. Doesn't say who did it, but it does list Judge James O'Hare. And then it says case continued for case management conference allowed. So, I don't understand those two things put together. It's not making much sense. And I think we'll get to that towards the end. Because on one hand, you're saying strike it from the case management call. And on the other hand, it's saying case continued for case management conference. And it's allowed. Both of them are allowed. That's the confusing part. And it has a court time. And I'll show you where I think they corrected this on down the line a little bit. The next thing that happened in this case was on June the 30th. A response or a reply was filed. And a motion was filed. Now, 2 responses or replies were filed. Doesn't say who did it. We have no idea. And then the motion was simply saying, hey, this is a motion to file said response or reply with the courts. So, doesn't really tell us a whole lot. The next thing that happened in this case was on July the 1st of this month. And that was a notice of motion filed and a motion filed. So somebody, doesn't say who, filed a motion. And then they also said, please be advised that party A has filed a motion and has sent it to the following parties. Just letting the court know we filed this motion, and we've let everybody know that we filed this motion. So it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. The next thing that happened in this case was on July the 8th of this month. Again, response or reply was filed. Then there's a file counterclaim or cross complaint, which was filed by Capital Security Investigations, and Judge James O'Hare allowed that. Of course, we don't know what the counterclaim was, we don't know if it was, number one, a counterclaim, or if it was a cross complaint, and we don't know who that's towards. Personally, I think it's probably the hotel. And I think they're going to get into a battle over who's responsible. Who is responsible for the negligence that is being alleged by Miss Tereasa Martin buying through her legal counsel. So I think they're going to battle it out there. Now, the next thing that happened in this case was on July the 13th of this month. Amended additional party complaint filed, and a notice of that filing was filed with the court. Doesn't say who did it, but somebody amended the additional party complaint that they filed. So somebody is telling the judge, hey, we think that this person should also be allowed, or this entity, a business, should be an additional party in this complaint. And then they went back and amended that. Then they filed a notice saying that they are filing this amended additional party complaint. The next thing that happened was just this week. And it was on July the 27th. And this is where I think they went back and corrected it. It simply says docket correction. And usually when you see that, it's a clerical error. And I think the clerical error was you can't strike from case management and then schedule case management. So I think that is where the docket correction comes into play. And that brings the case up to date to Friday. Yeah, Friday. Is that right? No, Wednesday. Regardless, everything that I went over was all filed this year. This case is very real. Anyone that tells you different is trying to push a narrative on you, plain and simple. It's just plain and simple. This is something that is easily researchable, easily verifiable. You can call any one of these attorneys and ask them if they represent one of these parties. They're going to tell you yes. There's no other way to dispute that. So, that updates the case through this month. And as the case goes forward, I think what we're going to start seeing is a lot of stuff in regards to a jury. Because it looks like they're getting down to the final preparations before they ask for a jury trial. And when they ask for a jury trial, they're going to have to pay a jury fee. So, this should get interesting. I want to see who's going to do what here. So, that's all I have right now on this. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments and I'll sure try to answer. But I want you to know that I'm not an attorney. I'm not a legal representation for anyone. I simply worked for an attorney's office for close to 15 years. I hate even telling people that because it's such a long time. And my degree is in criminal justice, so I understand a lot of this stuff. Not to mention, I also have, I worked for somebody for 15 years. I've got him on speed dial. I'll just say that. I probably aggravate the hell out of him. But regardless, I'm going to end this video on that note. Thanks for watching, and you guys have a great weekend.